So the earnings report is out and the earnings call is over, and I wanted to be able to talk to you about what I saw that took place. First of all, I just want to say I think it was one of the most transparent and one of the times when the questions that were important were asked and answered in large measure. So this is Randy Kirk, and you can like if this is what you like, and subscribe and do all the rest. And of course, I would surely appreciate some more people joining Patreon. Let's jump right into it. First of all, the emphasis on the entire call, the emphasis overall is the pricing is designed to sell all the cars. Okay, it was asked 15 different ways. What are the margins? What are the possible margins? What's the bracket of the margins? Could it go as low as, et cetera, et cetera? Elon finally said at the end, look, we would sell them for no margins if we had to, because why? Because we will be able to sell those same customers all kinds of things later, like insurance, charging, and of course, robotaxi, full self-driving. So the opportunities are massive as they increase the fleet. Is this a new idea? No, regular automobile companies have been doing it for 100 years, where they sell the car at very, very low margins and then make it up by selling parts and repairs at very high margins. So the dealers were making a lot of money and the manufacturers were making a lot of money by selling parts after the fact. The Tesla, there's not that much service and repair business after the fact, but there is a huge business in insurance and the rest. So will they go down to zero margins? They'll never have to go down to zero margins. Would they ever? They were asked, would they ever actually slow down manufacturing because of demand? And Elon said, yeah, sure. If for some reason the macro was so crazy that nobody was buying cars, period, there would be a point at which you'd stop or slow down manufacturing. But every indication would be it's pedal to the metal with regard to continuing to manufacture cars as fast as they possibly can. Having said that, the Randy Kirk estimate of 2.21 million was again bracketed, if you will, by Elon stating, no, we think 2 million is the top. I just don't see how 2 million can be the top if they go as fast as they can possibly go. But we'll see as the year plays out. But for now, 2 billion seems to be what Tesla is shooting for this year. Once again, all of the emphasis was on the future. I would say 2024 is going to be an amazing year. And you'll see as we go through the rest of this information, you'll see 2024 is when things are really going to pop. So let's see, let's go down to the next thing here. For one thing about 2024 is that Elon believes that the rest of this year could be soft. We continue to have the high interest rates, although not historically that high, but higher interest rates than we had before. And he sees, a soft market where people can't afford to buy the car or where they're nervous about buying a car, and that will hurt all automotive sales, including Tesla. But he sees that opening up next year. He says, well, around 12 months. So about this time next year, he would anticipate in next spring, we'll spring into a more lovely time with regard to the macro. So that was one aspect of 2024 that we could look forward to under Elon's imagination about. He says, I don't have a crystal ball. He says, please, somebody loan me a crystal ball. He doesn't know, but that's kind of how he's seeing things. All right. What else? All right, let's go down here. Let's start with the list. Okay. I gave you the list this morning. Now I'll go through the list. Operating margin. Well, the operating margin was the biggest miss. The stock was down about $7 in after hours trading. And that $7 is probably about the operating margin, which was the only really, there was a miss on the auto margins too, but the operating margin was a bigger miss. Now, I've got a big question about that. And I've put it out to a bunch of people and nobody seems to be getting back to me. I believe there was a huge, an $8 billion note, if you will. I'm sorry, not 8 billion, 0.8 billion, $800 million note in the analysis that said that they had a lot of losses due to currency valuation changes. So, I've been an import-export most of my life, and if the dollar goes down, that means that you are going to be affected in terms of what you can sell or what you can buy over in any market that uses a different currency as the method of exchange. So a lot of times in China, you're doing business with the dollar. When you buy from somebody in China or sell something to somebody in China, everything is dollar denominated. In Europe, that's not the case. Most of the European countries want to do business in their currency if it's going one way, and dollars if it's going the other way. And that around the world, it's different in every market. So when you have almost $1 billion in losses due to currency valuation issues, that's massive. If you put that back into earnings, all of a sudden your earnings this year would have been way closer to my number than they were to the number that actually came out. And your earnings in your margins on cars would have been a lot closer to my number. You're not going to see this $800 million loss every quarter. Theoretically, the dollar's not going to go down by that massive amount that it did this last quarter. So interesting to see how all that comes out. There was also a statement, I think it was by Zach Kirkhorn, that there was some of the other losses that had to do with things that were one-time out things. It didn't even matter what they were, but they had to do with warranties on old Model S's and X's. And I forget what the other one was, but they were one-time hits. And he said that was about half of the difference between the actual automotive margins and the 20% that he said would be the floor. I know he also said the cost of raw materials did not come down as fast as they thought it might. So the cost of raw materials is coming down, which is what I've been saying. You know what? I made a mistake in that one, and I did not take into consideration the length of time from the time you buy it to the time you actually put it in the car. Because Tesla, once the car goes out the door, it's only 16 days till it goes into somebody's hands. So I'm thinking, okay, if the commodity prices change, it's a fairly rapid thing to where it's going to show up in the cost of the car that's going out the door and being sold. But no, it's bought, let's say in December. And if you buy it in December, it goes on a train or it goes on a ship or it goes on a truck and it gets to the plant. It sits in the plant for a few days, finally goes into the manufacturing process. I mean, there's a process of it could be a month, it could be 6 weeks between the time you buy it and the time that you sell the finished vehicle. And sometimes it might even be longer than that. So they are in that first quarter, they were still dealing with the high commodity prices that were from 2022. And in some cases, you have fixed prices, so you can't even get out of them even as the spot price comes down. So they did indicate that without a crystal ball, they couldn't say for sure, but that the trend is down and that they should start to realize lower and lower costs of raw materials going into the second, third, and fourth quarter, assuming things go along as normal. Okay, so operating margins was a big miss in my opinion. I forget now what the number was, but it was well short of my 18%. The 18% that they did have, and even short of my 15. I want to say it was around 12.5. So that was a miss. Energy profits were also a miss, but I think, again, they didn't split it out. So there's really no way to know. So the losses on solar, I think, are still dramatically impacting the gains on energy storage. So there was like 11% margins. That's still very low. It's up from where it was, but I think that does not really take into consideration what they're really making on these new packs. There's also the packs that are still being made that were still being made in Reno. I understand that line is now shut down, but those really had much lower margins as well. So, but the trend was definitely in the right direction. The total number of units that were sold in terms of kilowatt or megawatt hours or gigawatt hours was, I think it was 3.5 times last year's number, that same quarter last year. So no, all of those trends are in the right direction. He did say that there is just exactly what Bradford Ferguson was saying, is that the plant is partially ramped, and that there's equipment coming in the second half that will ramp it up the rest of the way. So once again, 2024, we should see Lathrop fully ramped, and we might see Shanghai beginning to be ramped. So 2024 should be huge for energy storage. Then we go to the next item, which is auto margins. We kind of talked about that a little bit. It came in a little bit low, but I think the 20% number is probably realistic. I think going forward that they're not going to be below 20. And I'm suspecting that in fact, they're going to increase because, you know, I'm an optimist, but I think we'll see an increase in the auto margins going forward. Now, that comes down to this whole issue of pricing again. My video the other day hit it spot on. Nobody else was talking about it. You're always going to get stuff that's different here, but I hit it out of the park on this one. Elon says we have better data to make decisions on pricing by the day, by the week than anybody else in any industry. Says we know the next day we can look at our data and we can say, oh, we need to raise the price. We need to lower the price. Oh, we lower the price a little bit and this is what happened. Their data is instantaneous. Nobody else has instantaneous data. As I mentioned in my video, as an Amazon seller, I kind of do have instantaneous data. It's very similar, but maybe he's never been selling on Amazon, so he doesn't realize how quickly that you can make responses on Amazon the way that he can. But they also have more data in terms of the after sale, so they can also, they know way more about the customer than I do. So that would be a difference. Okay, next would be the ASP, the average selling price. That came in high. I was pretty shocked by the average selling price. That came in over 47,000. That was what a lot of people were saying, and I was at 44. That tells me there's a lot of room to drop the price. So if they can keep the average selling price up above 45, and so that 47 means that all the things that I was saying a couple of weeks ago about these lots of Model Ys now, dramatically more Model Ys, and it's going to be dramatically more Model Ys all year. And so that's going to keep the average selling price high, and that's going to help the overall profits. So all of that is still true. Go back and look at those videos where I talked about why the average selling price was going to be higher than expected, but I was low. I said 44. All right. The earnings per share came in almost exactly on the nose with regard to the street's estimate. And everybody was like congratulating themselves about coming in on that number. But I just want to ask the question, did any of them figure in $800 million in losses in currency? I don't think so. You add back that $800,000 in currency, and all of a sudden you're up to my number. You would have been well over $1 a share. Once again, I'm asking, maybe you folks know. Let me know in the comments below. You know I read your comments. You know I respond to them. Don't you put that back in, because that's kind of a one-time hit. It could be the opposite next quarter. It could be that they have $100 million or $500 million in currency benefit next quarter. So doesn't that go back in when you're kind of looking at what really happened in terms of the overall management of the company? I don't know, but that's how I feel. All right, so earnings per share came in almost exactly what the street said it would. At 85, 86, I forget exactly. All right, then there was the IRA tax advantage. Not a word mentioned. Not a word. Nobody said anything about it. It's not in the notes. It's not anywhere. Maybe we'll find out someday. But for now, I don't know. We don't know whether they took any benefit from the IRA tax incentives. How much it was, we have no idea. All right, so I got nothing on that one. And nobody asked a question. Not one person asked the question. Not one person asked the semi-truck question. I was shocked. Neither one of those two got questions. So that was kind of surprising. Yeah, so overhead came in really good. The overhead was about the same as it was last quarter, even though there was greater total units that were produced, a little less revenue overall produced, but the overall overhead stayed about the same, even with all of these ramps that are taking place. So I think that is the basic stuff that I wanted to know. Oh, let's go back just real quick and look. Oh yes, this is why I hope you didn't turn it off. Are you still here? Okay, let's go on. So the energy ramp will continue. 4680s. When 4680s are finished, they're going to be 70% of the cost of any other battery that's out there being made, according to this earnings call. I guess that must include CATL. So that was interesting. Everything's going to come together. So the Cybertruck will have a reveal near the end of the third quarter. Okay. that was revealed. Assuming everything goes well. Now, maybe it's a little sooner, maybe it's a little later, but the end of the third quarter is when we can look for the handoff, if you will, of the first bunch of Cybertrucks. So that means we really only have the fourth quarter this year to sell Cybertrucks to the public. So some people that have estimated a couple of thousand this year, that's probably right. So Cybertruck is a 2024 item. We should see the ramp begin to accelerate in 2024. Now that is going to coincide with the overall 4680 ramp being close to completion. So that everything's coming together for that. It appears, now I don't know that I have this 100% right. Let me know in the comments below if you heard it differently, and we'll listen for more information as we go down. Corpus Christi should be ready to go by the end of the year. They're hoping that Corpus Christi will be able to be certified, or whatever they do to a commission, that's what they call it, that Corpus Christi will be commissioned to begin to provide the lithium bromide, I forget, anyway, the lithium product, the refined product, so that that can come over to Texas so they can use that in the production of the batteries. They want to use that production to give us the very, very best batteries out of Texas. Does that mean they're not going to make any between now and then? No, they're at, what did they say? Several of the lines are up, several of the lines are not. There's a couple of lines that are not completed in terms of equipment, but all of them are in the process of getting there. So the full ramp, it sounded like it was going to be, again, early 2024 when Texas, Austin 4680s will be fully ramped just in time to be able to serve all those Cybertrucks and, of course, the Model Ys that are coming out of Austin. So there you go. Here was a big one. This is a big one. Put this in your thinking cap. They were talking about any energy storage margins. And what they said was, we're always shooting for about a 25%, a mid-20s margin for all of our products. So the 40% margin that we're all hoping for out of Lathrop may be wrong. Maybe we're not, but that sounds like 25% is what they're shooting for across the board. So what does that mean? They're also shooting for long-term 25% margins on the cars as well. I think that's an extremely helpful number to know in terms of the way they think about things. So if you like this content, please like, please subscribe, please hit the notify. There's a down below in the comments, the information below, you'll see a list of all the different programs that are coming up, all my episodes that are coming up, lots of really good ones. Just take a look down there below, and that'll give you a reason to hit the notify button, and then join Patreon if you would like to see me be able to continue to create this content in the future. It's been great talking to you.